Hello everybody and welcome to this video. It's the continuation in the series on A-level English literature. So many of you have now started this course and you're messaging me saying that you're finding it really tricky, and rest assured everybody finds it tricky. It is a hard course, but it is possible to pass this course and do really well. And one of the ways that you can do that is through picking up Mr. Bruff's Guide to A-level English literature. It's just £4.99 at mrbruff.com or on amazon.co.uk, and it was written by Kerry Lewis, who is otherwise known as Mrs. Spag on Twitter. She also wrote the best-selling Mr. Bruff's Guide to Grammar, and both titles are really worth picking up. So what are we looking at in this series? We've been looking at Assessment Objective 1, and in the last video we looked at the structural features of prose, and today we're going to look at the structural features of drama. So when you're studying a type of text, you need to know some of the things you can expect to find when it comes to how the text is organised. And drama texts are going to contain some or all of the following structural features depending on when they were written. So Shakespeare, for example, has the famous exit pursued by a bear stage direction in The Winter's Tale, but unlike most modern plays, his stage directions are often embedded into the dialogue. So let me go through some of the things you can expect to find when studying a play. To begin with, acts and scenes. Scenes are subsections of acts, and it's a way of dividing the action. It's really important to remember that drama takes place on a stage. So if there's ever going to be a change of scenery or change of characters or suggestion of a change of time, there may well be a change of act or scene, because that gives the characters and everybody on stage a bit of time to sort of mix things up. In Shakespeare's theatre there were no backdrops and props and things like that, but today, much more modern theatre, there is time required to set things up and move things around. The next one is an aside. Now, an aside is a remark made by a character, and it's for the benefit of the audience, not the other characters who are on stage. And it's really often used to reveal his or her thoughts and feelings to the audience. In Shakespeare, it's only ever really the hero or the villain who will use an aside. So in The Merchant of Venice, Shylock might make an aside to the audience so we understand his motives in giving the loan, but the understanding is that the other characters on stage do not understand, they don't hear it. A chorus then. In Greek tragedy, a chorus is a group of characters who comment on what is happening in a play. Shakespeare, I'm going to keep referencing Shakespeare because I'm pretty sure all of you will be studying Shakespeare for your A-levels. Shakespeare will use a chorus often as one person, sometimes two, and they'll come onto the stage and they'll have a quick conversation, or they'll speak to the audience and explain the sort of things that have been going on in the background. And again, in The Merchant of Venice, characters of Solario and Solanio basically take the role of a chorus and come on stage in Act 1, Scene 1 and Act 2, Scene, I think, 8, and just explain some of the things that have been happening that we haven't seen on stage. So a chorus is really useful, and it helps you with that difficult problem of if you've got things that you want to take place, but you don't want everything to be shown on stage to the audience. A chorus can fill you in. Comic relief, otherwise known as Red Nose Day. Oh no, different comic relief. It's really where you've just got a witty character or some humorous dialogue or a comic scene to relieve tension in a serious play. Again, with Shakespeare, a lot of his comedies, and remember a comedy is not necessarily supposed to be funny, but it's a play with lots of generic conventions, such as ending in marriages and cases of mistaken identity and things like that. But even in those sort of light-hearted plays, often it gets very, very serious. So Shakespeare and lots of playwrights will put a little scene in that is quite funny, and it'll just lift the atmosphere. But it also has a more interesting effect, because if you've got a really tense moment and then there's a funny moment, actually it draws out that tension a bit further in a way, because you want to, find out, hang on a minute, what's going on with that tense event. So structurally, comic scenes look at where they are put and where they are placed in a play, and think about, is this lightening the audience, or is it actually dragging it out and heightening the tension? Dialogue, which we also saw in the last video, which is something that's also used in prose, of course, is simply conversation between characters, and you need it in a play, obviously. Diction is the way that a character speaks. You can examine how words are enunciated and pronounced, and also what the choice of words reveals about a character, what it reveals about their thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and personal values. Really interesting to think about whether the way characters speak, the character's diction changes. Different characters have different diction in a play, and even if one character actually changes throughout the play. The list of characters comes at the beginning. It helps the director to allocate the roles, and for us as readers it helps us to get a grip of exactly who is in the piece. A monologue is a long speech spoken by one character to other characters on stage, and it's not to the audience. So one character speaking to somebody else, another character, and a really long speech. A script is the writing that contains dialogue. Stage directions is probably the most important one, because when you're studying a piece of work that is drama, the exam boards often point out the fact that in your analysis it isn't actually clear you understand it's a play at all. So one of the things that is distinct about a play is the stage directions, and when you're writing an essay or an exam answer, you should actually try to build into that answer an analysis of the stage directions to make it clear to the exam board, look, I realise this form of writing is a play, and here I am analysing something specific to a play. Now, stage directions really vary. Some playwrights have extremely exhaustive stage directions where they dictate everything they want to see. Others have very small stage directions. But what stage directions do is they usually include information about how an actor might speak, particular mannerisms to employ, what to wear, how to use props, instructions for entrances and exits, and they might also cover technical aspects such as how the stage is set, lighting, sound effects, that kind of thing. As I said, sometimes playwrights hardly have any, and then sometimes they're really, really detailed. And look out for that and think about why that might be. And finally, a soliloquy. A soliloquy is a long speech, like a monologue, but in a soliloquy there are no other characters on the stage. So it's one character expressing his or her thoughts essentially to the audience, and it's their benefit to hear them. And in Hamlet, the to be or not to be soliloquy is perhaps one of the most famous soliloquies of all time.